you need to learn when to leave and go do other things. And quitting is not a terrible thing. Quitting is just not necessarily quitting on your vision, but leaving to go expand in other spaces, other territories.
Hello and welcome to Tech Stories and Whatnot. My name is Ubelejit Dennison, your host, and today I'm chatting with Eyitayo Ogunmola, the founder of Utiva. And Utiva is a tech education platform that has helped over 40,000 people get into tech, learn a new skill, transition from their previous careers into tech, and also get gainfully employed. And you can imagine I'm actually excited to have him here. And if you must know, Utiva has also been ranked amongst the top 10 Nigerian startups on the rise by the famous LinkedIn platform that you and I use. So welcome Eyitayo. It's really nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Hubert. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you know what? I feel very excited to say all of these things about Utiva, and I can only imagine how you feel being the founder. So how do you feel being the founder of Utiva?
It's a privilege, honestly. I could have been doing some other things, Most of us never thought that we were going to do, running startups, especially in the tech space. I kind of think that if you run a startup in the tech space, you are blessed, right? It comes with, it's a blessing. It comes with a lot of opportunities, really. It comes with its challenge. Opportunities in the sense that you get to globalize, the work that you do. You really have the opportunity, you get the opportunity to touch lives, to solve very complex, problems, be a part of an economy that is fast rising, and also get to be celebrated, for the good work that you do. That's what it offers. And on the other side, it's quite very, very overwhelming because many of us were not taught to be entrepreneurs. We are learning on the job, and it's also very, very interesting and overwhelming at the same time.
I think I like the fact that we say learning on the job, and then the challenges that comes with it, the praises, because tech space is I don't know, it sounds cliche, but then it's the truth that it's the future. So just before we get into the detail, what was your career journey like before Utiva, before you founded Utiva? For
me, I would kind of start from when I left the university. When I left the university, I thought that everything was going to be rosy, right? I was really, really excited about leaving the university. And then you got into the job market, you were disappointed, you realized that employers were hiring for something totally different. I'd gone to the university to study something totally different. It was also very depressing. You get out there and then people say things like, oh, I studied accounting, I studied pharmacy, banking and finance, but then you say you studied physiology. And then the next question is physiology, So for 2 years, I tried really to figure out life, 2 years after school. But then, I met mentors, friends, organizations that gave people like myself the opportunity to volunteer. So my first opportunity really was volunteering, for a mentor that was building another organization. I did that for 1 year. And then in the process of volunteering, I discovered my passion for, managing projects, managing stores and building real stores out. And then I got lucky again. I had another mentor who just got into Nigeria from the US. He told me about the tech industry. And I can't forget what he told me in 2013, that Eyitayo, if you go into the tech space, you will be grateful. You will build amazing things in the tech space. But then remember, 2013, there was no Flutterwave, there was no Andela, there was no Paystack, there was no PiggyVest, there was no TeamApps, there was nothing. Most of the tech companies in that space then were very traditional. We didn't have access to them. So 2014, I started to build my life really as a product manager, build a couple of different failed products. Some of them were successful. While I was building successful and failed products in 2014, I got into a program in the US in 2015, and then I moved into the US in 2015 as a product manager. I was working with one of the biggest international development firms, but I was working in the IT, the tech team. I built a couple of different tech products, in that space. Did that for about 2 years. Saw the opportunity in Africa again, in 2017. I moved back to Nigeria in 2017 to start Utiva. But then Utiva, I couldn't really start in 2017, so I took a job. I took a job as a vice president product for a consulting company, built a couple of different products again between 2017 and 2018. 2018 was my miracle, right? I said, you know what, I'm just going to abandon everything and go do Utiva. Started in 2018, failed again in 2019. But then, I just decided I was going to pack up, and just pack up and go do something else. But, mentoring, support, especially, the entire ecosystem support rallying around you, providing that, moral support to really become successful. And then, restarted again in 2019, and here we are. So it's been a journey of, not exactly being clear what you wanted to do, but just really learning, volunteering, being a part of different other organizations that are building fantastic things. For me, it was really working with Creative DC in the US, working with Have 3 Sons as a VP product. Those two opportunities really, really, helped me to re-engineer my vision for Utiva. And then 2019, we started really building, Utiva officially 2019, and here we are.
Okay, that's a brief but interesting rundown, and I enjoyed it. First, the not having a job to actually volunteering, and then building products. So let's talk about the failed products, because that's some of the things that attracted me to your story when you were like, I founded 2 products according to your LinkedIn story that failed before I started Utiva. But then it's the guts to leave everything, like you said, and then start something new. Sometimes people have this fear of leaving the whole 9 to 5. I wouldn't want to call it 9 to 5 now, because we're in the remote era. So leaving their job, a paid job, to start something. And like you rightly said, we're learning this entrepreneurship stuff. So how, I would say, what gave you the guts? Is it that you had money sitting in your bank accounts to start your own venture, or you're like, you know what, let me just start? So I'd like to hear that part.
I mean, so to be honest with you, I've always been very, very ambitious and daring. It's something that when I was a teenager, I ran one of the biggest interdenominational choir. Over 150 young people, teenagers, were in my choir at, I think I was just 16. When I was about 20 or so, I had a tutorial center for myself. So I've always done things, and that's the power of getting your hands dirty, doing things. You build that capacity to be bold, the capacity to get out, capacity to fail and rise again, just by doing. So for me, it's kind of like the things I have done in the past, accumulated and gave me that courage to start Utiva again, failed 2 times, but, relaunched again. But I also need to mention that I learned so much by doing 9 to 5. I learned the power of structure, the power of bigger vision, because sometimes when you run a startup, it's always the temptation of trying to be small, trying to stay in the space of startuping, because it's beautiful. It's beautiful to be a startup, right? Everybody calls you a startup entrepreneur, it's beautiful. But then the goal is not to be a startup entrepreneur. The goal. is to be a businessman, an entrepreneur that runs a successful company, right? So I worked with 2 big successful businesses and companies. I learned about structure, I learned about corporate governance, I learned about building a successful team, building a reporting system, building a financial system around your business. And I brought all that experiences into Utiva, right? But then we are not there yet, so I keep learning and I keep bringing the value, into the company.
Thank you. Now, so if you're listening, I love the part when he said you're not wanting to remain a startup forever. You want to be the founder of a great business, if I'm going to paraphrase. And yes, we're talking about scaling a startup, but then we are using, we're citing Utiva's story now. And I love it that you mentioned the good that 9 to 5 did for you, because there's this, we're not going to go into it, but then there's that battle on LinkedIn and social media where it's like 9 to 5, no, remote is my thing and whatnot. But then being starting out as a young person and growing your career, it's good to be in-house. It's good to learn some of this thing. I myself can attest to being influenced positively by the 9 to 5, like the whole 9 to 5 thing. I saw how processes were done, and then processes and systems is one of the things that we're going to talk about later on. But then I would want to ask, my next question is, how did the two failed attempts at founding a product influence Utiva's success? And if you'd like to take us briefly on this journey, what were you trying to build, and what were the lessons that your failed attempts taught you? How did it help Utiva succeed?
Yeah. I mean, so we failed at two things. When we launched Utiva at the inception, the aspiration was to become the largest, or the biggest partner to traditional universities, and offering this traditional university, digitalization to grow or scale learning. That was what I had in mind. I just wanted to be a partner to as many universities as possible and offer these universities, the technology, offer them the access to market, offer them the curriculum and the content, to train their students in tech. That was the model. That was quite very simple to do, right? And, I put all my resources. Personally, I had saved almost $30,000, and then I got another $10,000 to $15,000 from another angel. Put all that money into that model. We were hiring local ambassadors in all the universities. We had a very small ambassador team. We had a campus lead. We launched different training programs in universities, but the universities were very bureaucratic. So one lesson I learned doing that is the power of testing your hypotheses, because so many things really sound on paper, and don't let investors misguide you, because so many things can sound very good to investors, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're going to put our money around this, but that model sounded very, very great. I remember when I pitched this model in the US, one of the top universities, I had attended their African program, and I said, oh, we're building a digital platform that will be the partner of every university, so that the university just takes our technology, our content, our curriculum, and use that to deliver training. It sounded very good. But which university are we talking about? University of Lagos or University of Ibadan? Take your words. I literally lived in Shomolu because I wanted to achieve this for Yaba Tech and University of Lagos. I remember I was robbed, twice. Because I lived in Shomolu, I wanted a situation where I could just drive into University of Lagos, drive into Yaba Tech, and continue to explore the relationship. I did that for 2 years, nothing worked, because the universities were very bureaucratic. They would tell you to come over and over and over again, so we couldn't really do it. So it's the power of really testing your hypothesis. The second thing for me is, when you fail at things, then you have two options. The first option is to leave and go do something else. The second option is to be very, very resilient and dogged and say, hey, I'm going to get this to the end of this. You need to learn when to leave and go do other things. And quitting is not a terrible thing. Quitting is just you, not necessarily quitting on your vision, but leaving to go expand in other spaces, other territories. And that was what we did. We tried to scale this to 25 universities. So you can imagine traveling from one school to another school. I slept in FUNAB multiple times, slept in TASUD multiple times, slept in Agoiwe. I remember I slept in Agoiwe. I had booked a room very close to actually where people, cultists were actually doing their, rituals. I booked a room very bathroom. I had all those very terrible experiences just trying to scale a failed approach or a failed model, right? And those were the things that I did. But I learned the hard way. You need to know when to leave the stage. and go rebuild in another spaces or in another space, another territory. And that was one of the things that I did. And I'm quite very happy that I did. I made that decision to build Utiva in another space. Now I think we are big enough to go do that thing I wanted to do there, right? And if we're interested in it, we can go do it. If not, we'll continue to do what we are doing. The second failure for me was hiring too fast. I hired this super brilliant young guys too fast in 2018. So I had about 15 staff members, and then it was a total failure. The lesson I learned was hire from the top, hire super brilliant guys, and let them test whatever you want to scale. Make sure whatever you want to scale is profitable, then hire more to scale that profit. That's for me the new approach that I have when it comes to running a business now. Not just continue to hire people because you think that the more you hire, the more you will become successful. It doesn't work that way in real life. You need to hire 1, 2, let them test that hypothesis, make sure that it is profitable, you generate some very clear results from that, and then you take it to the next level where you now say, oh, let's hire more to build or to scale or grow that profit. And that's the approach that I have for running, running a startup or running a business.
I think what I enjoyed from that was when you said, don't be afraid of quitting, don't be afraid of leaving. It's not a terrible thing, and then retesting your hypothesis. That really made sense to me. And I think that's also all of these experiences. I really love that you went personal, how you had to stay close to University of Lagos just because you thought you could influence this thing, and then it just didn't work out. And sometimes when things don't work out, a friend said, they're just like redirecting you to other stuff. So it makes sense to know that failures are not that you're not good enough, but then it's redirection. So I love that you redirected you to a better model for Utiva. And I think my next, the next question is on traction and funding. But before we go there, because all of these things matter when you're scaling a startup, I'm going to ask how are systems, how are we able to get it right with systems? Systems matter, getting people to marry your vision or take in your vision, building the right team. And it was quite interesting when you said that one of the mistakes you made was hiring too fast. So I'd really love you to explain better on that, but then also tell us how you've done it better now. How has putting in the right systems, building the right team have been beneficial to Utiva?
Yeah, so one thing I tell, and I just want to be sure that you can really hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. So one thing that I tell my mentees and friends that want to come into this game, because I see building a startup as a game, is that from day one, you need to settle with the reality. This is about growing up. This is about building something, right? Ultimately, this is metamorphosis. You cannot boycott the process. It doesn't work. It's not real. You can get a lot of money. You can get funded. You can get a lot of cash. But funding you does not help you to boycott the process of growing up. So you would have to make mistakes. You would have to hire a lot of people. And you would have to, excuse a few folks. You would meet people that are super passionate. You would meet those that have got skills and have got no passion. It's all in the process, right? So you need to settle with that reality from day one that, hey, I'm building a startup here. It's not the kingdom of God. It's a startup, right? It's not going to be perfect. I would make a lot of mistakes, And remember that you were not trained as an entrepreneur. You're learning on the job.
Yeah.
So I've made a lot of mistakes, hiring wrong people. I've been wrong myself, I've been a wrong entrepreneur myself. I've been a wrong leader myself. But we move. You're building something. You're building something. It's never going to be perfect. So today it looks to me like, we have an HR manager that is helping us manage, human capital and talent. He didn't have HR some years back or some months back. We were We're learning on the job. Now we have an accountant that is helping us manage our accounting system and processes. Now we're building our next board of directors or next board of advisory. Now we are getting better with our corporate governance. Now we are pursuing the US and the UK for licensing and certification. Now we are getting partnership with some financial institution in the UK, to offer our students learn now, pay later. All these things will come as you build the process, as you build in the process. So as an entrepreneur, the first year should be about testing all your hypotheses and making sure that you are selling. You need to sell to customers, you need to make money, you need to make real money so that you know if you are in business or not. If people buy your products and they come back, then you've got something, right? The next year is double or supercharging the things you did in the first year. The third year should be about putting the first system and structures in place. Don't invest too much in trying to put a system and structure in place when you don't have the right product and you don't have customers.
Wow.
Because then you're just putting systems in place for nothing. What is the substance when you say you run a business or you run a company? It's, do you have products? Do people pay for your products? Are they coming back? Are you making real money? If you achieve that element of your business, then hire people to help you scale that fast and then begin to put processes in place. But today I see people trying to put processes in place when they don't have anything. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. Validate this, and usually it takes a lot of time to validate, because you can have customers come to buy your thing the first year, but then in reality, you don't have a product yet. Wow. How do you know when you have a product? When you have return customers, when you have people telling others, say, hey, I learned this at Utiva, can you pay? When you have a company like GT Bank or First Bank say, hey, we did a training here, and they recommend you to another bank, then you're like, yes, we've got something. But when you have something, you must immediately begin to hire people to help you put a structure and governance around what you've got. Because lack of governance is what cripple, whatever you've got. So if you have something, you need to put in processes and structures, just to organize around the things that you have so that you build sustainability around it and so that you don't die, very early. So, but again, I do need to emphasize again that this is you building a startup. It's you building a company. It's not a kingdom of God. So don't beat yourself when you fail, because it's never going to be perfect. You learn on the job as you move on.
You learn on the job as you move. I think that summarizes it. And then over to traction and then funding. Like you had said, you have a product when you know that people are coming back, and then you also have referrals. So I learned this, like you had said, from Utiva, and then you have partnerships, and then traction happens in at two ends. There's traction from customers, and then there's traction from what I call it venture capitalists now for funding purposes. So I would say, what are the strategies that you put in place or Utiva put in place to get its early customers, to get traction from its early customers? Let's talk about the customers first before we even go back to partnerships. I know you've partnered with, Utiva has partnered with Facebook, Binance currently, there's Microsoft, there's GCAS. So we're going to talk about all of that, how you were able to pull that off. But let's start with traction from its early customers and now.
Yeah. So if you're going to get traction from early customers, you need to be very, very intentional about storytelling. Storytelling, you need to be over communicating, your successes and the products that you're offering. And that's one of the things that we do well at Utiva, right? We are always running sessions to educate our customers that, hey, we are building something here. If you want to learn tech, so literally we do, like, on Friday evening, we have Twitter Spaces. Saturdays, we do master classes. During the week, we do consultation sessions, and so we are over speaking to the customers. You need to continue to speak to the customers because that is how you lead in the space. And that way you get your early traction. The second thing you need to figure out is that you need to figure out the pricing strategy, the business model for whatever you want to build. Do you want to do the low costs? Do you want to do the premium? Do you want to do freemium? Offer some things for free and say, hey, if you want to pay more, get into it. Do you want to do subscription? Like for our international market, we're doing subscription, $50 per week. But you need to figure out the right payment or the right business model for what you're offering to your customers, right?
Yeah.
And then one thing I will talk about is the power of partnership. You know, so I'm a retail person, right? That I'm a retail person. I love B2C. I love talking to customers. But then you need to also understand that a single relationship with a business can multiply, you know, your opportunity to reach more customers. So you need to continue to supercharge the B2B side of the work that you do. Partnership, relationship with enterprises can really help you to scale the retail side of your business, which is reaching out to customers. So you can reach out to more customers by reaching out to one partner. And that's the way to think about it.
Okay, so I think the whole partnership thing, I love the idea of being able to multiply income traction now by partnering with the right bodies of the right companies now. And it leads us to the next. What were the strategies? What did Utiva do right to get partnerships with these top tech companies that I mentioned previously? And then funding also.
Yeah. So in terms of you know, relationship with partners, I'll share a few things. You need to put yourself out there, right? You need to put yourself out there. As the entrepreneur, you need to be out there. I mean, I am really out there. You know, I have got like 100,000 followers on my LinkedIn. You know, I'm really out there. You need to be confident enough to tell your stories. The way I think about running a startup is this, and I'm going to emphasize that part because I think that it's really very important, right? You need to choose. Do you want to do the hustle, or you want to just be very pretty and beautiful? You know those startups that are very pretty and beautiful, no hustle.
Yeah.
You know, they've got an amazing website. You've got like all this beautiful social media platforms. I mean, that is good. But you need to go do the job, the hustle. You need to talk to your customers. You need to tell your story. You need to be very aggressive. You know, I am very aggressive with reaching out to customers because if I don't, who will help me? You know, no one will help you. There's no manna falling from anywhere. So I'm super aggressive. I'm literally talking to over 50 customers per day. You know, over 50 customers per day. We're doing consultation sessions, reaching out to people. Hey, talk to us, ask us questions. In fact, during COVID, we were hosting 150 people on our virtual platforms every single day. And on weekends, on Saturdays, we're doing master classes. On Sundays, when my team is like, hey, we gotta do that. This is supposed to be a 9 to 5. I am hosting sessions on Sundays. I'm doing videos, I'm doing reels, I'm talking to customers, I'm reaching out massively to customers. And that's how to win. You know, one thing I want to say is then as you build your business, then you have to start to supercharge everyone on your team to do the same thing. Right? You need to try to do the same thing. When it comes to enterprises, you must be willing to do freemium. You know, if you want to build relationship with companies, you must be willing to offer something for free, you know, as a way to attract them and lock them down. Remember, if you lock them down, nobody's loyal anywhere. They can still go, you know. So when you lock them down, don't continue to give freemium because the Eyitayo says it. You know, you give a little freemium, a little free thing, you lock them down, you need to supercharge by, you know, putting a price to your value. You know, and then for enterprises, you also need to be very smart. You need to understand that if you lose that enterprise, that customer, they will still buy the product. They probably will buy it from someone else. So being very flexible, especially if you're in the training space where there's a training budget, they must spend the budget. So they must spend the money on the budget. So it's a question of, are you happy to, you know, meet them at the middle ground, or you want to lose that customer and let them go somewhere else to go and get, you know, the training. So just being very adaptable and flexible is the way I really think about, you know, this.
Yeah, I there's just so much touch points there that I would love to call out. Yeah, they're being very adaptable and flexible, and then also being aggressive. I love the way you said aggressively out there. I am aggressively out there. I see some startups make this mistakes where, like you said, they have a pretty website, they have a pretty social media platform, and then the founders are nowhere to be found online. They're nowhere to be found online, and so they leave the job to, okay, I'm going to employ someone who is going to be, say, my social media manager is going to do all of the noise. And then I have person had done research on good companies that have good traction, and then I find out that their founders page, the founder who is active and aggressively out there, like you said, is the one that is bringing in most of the traction. Yeah. But then you go to their company page, they're doing something beautiful over there, but then they have little engagements. But you need to switch over to the founders page and find the kind of engagement that you go there. So it's just like you said, if you don't do it, it takes time for team members to begin to tag along and say, oh, this thing we're building is beautiful. Sometimes people are doing something great, but they don't say it. It takes maybe time to reveal the person, oh, this is actually beautiful. Let me get more involved. But the person who is going to spearhead this movement, because you're the owner of that vision or you're the owner of that product, you're the one spearheading it, it's the founder. And so I feel like founders should be aggressively out there, like you had said. So that's like really cool. And then it's really about the partnership thing you had mentioned. Also, still about being out there, flexible, giving out some stuff for free. And then, yeah, but it's really important to know that at the end of the day, you don't have a good product. It's not just going to work out. Yeah. And if you're not willing to be flexible, like you had mentioned, you still wouldn't attract the kind of traction that you want, either from customers or from VCs now. So I just wrapping up the session, I would like to say, is this all to it? It sounds funny, but is this all to it about Utiva, or there are other strategies that help Utiva scale to where it is now? And then what would you say to aspiring founders and founders who are actually running an early stage startup? Yeah, just something to encourage them, something that they could focus on. What should they focus on more? You may have said it, but I think that reiterating it will make sense.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to advise entrepreneurs, I would say you need to play in a very big market, right? You might not be big at the inception. Your niche might be very small, but the potential for growth has to be really, really massive, right? We are playing on the continent in Africa with 1.2 billion people. It's still a very small market in terms of how many people really want to learn tech skills. So what we are doing is to expand our reach, our opportunity to really, tackle more problems. So we're not just working with post-university or post-college graduates. We're working with, university students. We're working with pre-university students as high school leavers. We're working with kids, so we have a potential to work with children. So we launched a program called the Utiva Kids. Yeah. We're also building a product for seamless hiring, to help people, smart companies hire fast. We are abroad, helping, Africans and minorities learn tech skills. We are abroad also helping companies abroad hire smart talent. So you see the potential for what we do is quite very massive and big. So I think that if you're going to run a successful company, you have to build in a market that is very big. But two things I think I really want to double click. Number one is you need to be very resilient. Number two is that your storytelling has to be top notch. You need to fundamentally remember that it's about two things. Do you want to be beautiful, or do you want to regenerate results? If you want to stay beautiful and look like a startup entrepreneur, well, that's fine. But I am a big fan of those who are always out there screaming, shouting, talking about what you're building. At least for the first 3 years, you need to be screaming. Go and look at successful founders. Look at Elon Musk. Look at the founder of Binance. You would see that these guys are always out there talking about what they're building. If you don't, then who will? Nobody's going to do it for you. And that's the way to think about running a startup as an entrepreneur.
I really think that hearing you say storytelling over and over again is amazing. And it feels like, should we call him to come talk about storytelling some other time? Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much. It's been amazing speaking with you. Great insights, great experience all together. You've been real. Like you said, do you want to be beautiful, or do you really want to do the work? Yeah, and I think that it's been a lot of work as put in at your own end. And yeah, it's paying off, and it's going to pay off even better. So thank you very much for coming on the pod session with me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me, and thanks for being very flexible.
Thank you too. All the best.